Hi, Chef Leah. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. I'm stoked to be here. I love good humans.
So can you tell us a little bit about your restaurant and who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I'm Leah Delyte DiBernardo. I go by Leah Delyte. I was named after my mom's best friend from the 70s. So no, that's not a stripper's name. It's a real actual name, Delyte. And I think it kind of embodies a bit about myself and also eat. It is such a delightful place. I've never used this before in a sentence, so it's kind of funny. I'm just going off the cuff. I like this. I'm going to keep it. But Eat is really, Eat is extraordinary artisan tables. So we came up with that name because eating is such a pleasure and we love to support artisans, and we really feel it's important to bring people together at the table. So it stands for everything we believe in and we do with art, with artisans, with cooks, with our team, and with our community. Eat is really a community hub, and being based in Old Town Temecula and in the Riverside region is a no-brainer for us because we're in one of the most beautiful ag counties in all of California. And if you combine Riverside and San Diego, we're the largest ag producers in the western part of the United States. And you just have so much beautiful access to good, clean food. And we have so many different microclimates. So farm to plate really literally means from the farm to your plate with what we do. And there's an emphasis on clean with eating at Eat because there's so much going on in our food system around chemicals and hormones and just a lot of stuff that's not meant to be in the human body. So we take the time and a lot of effort to make sure that what we're procuring from farms, from ranches, from the sea, from the land is incredibly clean and kind of sometimes beyond organic, because even organic farms, there's some spraying and there's a chemical list for that. So we are working so hard to make sure that everything we do at Eat is really good for you and good for the body. And we stand by that. And we don't mind being called out. And sometimes we are called out and reminded that some of the things we're using maybe, isn't what we could be using. And, could we stretch that conversation and take a look at whether it's oils or it's milks, for the espresso bar. So we're very open to that because we believe that food is your medicine and we want you to leave feeling really good when, after you eat or drink with us. So that's a little bit of what Eat's about. There's so much more, but that's the eatery portion of what we do.
And when I have eaten at your restaurant, I definitely leave feeling good and clean and energized. And it's such a joy to eat there and to see all the products that you have in your marketplace.
I'd love to hear that. The marketplace is important. It's kind of what started us. We started as a test kitchen for a lot of small businesses, and paleo was just becoming a thing back then. And we had people who were like, hey, can we come in and just use your kitchen to bake these grain-free breads? Or, I need to make a sauce that has no sugar in it and I'm not using any preservatives. So, I want to figure out how to get this made. So we just opened the kitchen and that became all the provisions, right? The artisanal provisions. And I was like, wow, what a great way to support budding small businesses. And I have a huge passion for young women in business, minorities in business, and how can I support them without making it too steep, right? Like overcharging for rent or other things that a lot of small food-based businesses get charged for, or insurances and permitting. So I'm like, just come on in, the kitchen's yours. You're going to pay $20 for utilities, but let us help you kickstart your company. So now with the provisional artisanal marketplace, we look for that. We're constantly like the Good Food Awards out of San Francisco, they're such a great foundation too. Like, who is a new company that's small, that has great mindful and thoughtful practices within their company and what they're doing in their community. And that's what I want to sell to you. I want people to be able to come in and buy something that is different, unique, delicious, and that they know where it's coming from. They know where their dollars are going. So
Definitely. And how does that trickle down effect impact the whole community?
Oh, it's such a huge effect on communities. If you think about, let's take a chicken for an example. You can go to Costco or Sam's Club or a larger place to get a chicken for $4 to $6, a whole roasted chicken. Now that poultry, that protein is bought for marketing reasons. So that's brought in to sell super cheap to get you in. So you then spend money on other products.
Mm-hmm.
It's genius marketing. I understand it from a business perspective. But if you think about where those dollars are going, you really would curtail how much purchasing you do like that. And I understand that there's a balance with everything. And I do not judge anyone for that. I'm just here to simply educate. So instead of giving those dollars for that bird to two of the largest poultry producers in the United States who really are not highly vested in mindful practices, you are then giving those dollars to people like, let's say, Corey Shallow, who's 14 miles away from me, out in wine country, or to Paul Greaves at Primal Pastures or Pasture Birds. And they both have really mindful, beautiful practices. They have a lovely family. So I know directly who I'm giving my dollars to. And then Paul does the same thing. Corey does the same thing. So you get this beautiful trickle down effect within our community. I can look at Paul's little girls and know that that's where my dollars are going. They're going right to his family. And I know the classes that, the dance class that they take. So why would I not then want to see those dollars go to that family that are putting their dollars back into our community? And there is that whole, it's reciprocal, and there's some beauty to that. So I say, when you spend your money locally with a local purveyor, you're supporting your own community.
That's so beautiful, and that's giving me shivers listening to you talk about that. And it's so important. And let's talk about the quality of the poultry that, let's say that we're eating poultry that we're eating. How does that impact the body? That, let's say that we're pregnant or that we're feeding our family. How does that impact us, like when we go home?
So and this is one, I'm not a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a scientist. I think I'm a bit of a food scientist, though. I think with 22 years of practice professionally in food, and then a lifetime around food because of how I was raised. When you are what you eat eats. So if you are eating a chicken that is pumped full of hormones and that's been eating genetically modified grains, and I'll circle back to some GMOs can be good. Again, balance. But the genetically modified grains that these chickens are eating, and a lot of the animals in the United States on conventional ag are eating, they are super cheap. And they're meant to be super cheap because they don't want to spend a lot of money on grains, because it's a business model and enough money has to flow to the bottom line to go out to the shareholders for our modern day corporation. So if you think about your food is just another number in a budget, and it's the same as us as people who purchase, there's no mindfulness or care with what is in our food. So if that chicken is filled with hormones, filled with chemicals and genetically modified organisms, and then you're eating it, and we're wondering why we have the highest rate of cancer ever in our lifetime in this country, it links back to some of our foods. It links back to a lot of other things. I'm not just saying, that's just part of it. So being pregnant and eating foods that have chemicals, drinking coffees that have chemicals, that's not something you want to introduce on a cellular level, right? Because you're nurturing your body. Food is meant, soil is no different. You just think about where your food is growing, the animals that are pecking at the ground or on the farm, right? All of that is this it has this beautiful symbiotic relationship. And when you're eating something that's filled with garbage, you're putting garbage back in your body. And I'm not an advocate for really expensive organic gourmet food. I'm an advocate for food that is clean and healthy to operate your body and then to feed your children, if you will, too. There's so much more to that, but that's just the cream of the off the top of that coffee.
Yeah. And it sounds a lot like business models. And I'm wondering what advice do you have for future business owners, or if someone is wanting to open a restaurant or an artisan market?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
Okay.
There's so much to unpack there, because I also teach culinary 101 and 102, exploratory culinary with an emphasis on clean food at MSJC. And one of the things that we are constantly talking about is, do you want to open your own business? And if you do want to open your own business, one, where is it going to be? Are you in the state of California, or are you going to be someplace else? Because there's so many rules and regulations in different states, and you want to be thoughtful of that for your own survival. That's the first thing we unpack and talk about. And then I go right into, okay, so you want to cook for a living, or you want to be a chef, or you want to be in hospitality, or you want to roast coffee. It's really interesting. I get a really kind of a beautiful mix of individuals that come in because they want to learn more about our food world. It's cooking. So my first thing is with cooks is, you have an obligation. I, as a chef, have an obligation of what I'm putting on the plate for my guests, for my customers. We all do. If you're going to cook, I really feel so strongly that you don't have a right to cook unless you understand what you're putting on the plate. You don't just go cook, to be fabulous, or to paint the plate. You cook to nurture, whether that's love, joy, someone who's sick and you're trying to heal their body. There's many different reasons to cook. And I still feel that there's a responsibility, and I teach that. So we start our class on the farm. Like, I want you to see what a farmer does. I want you to understand when we talk about topsoil, and that we have 60 harvests left with clean topsoil in the world. We have 60 years, 60 harvests left with good, clean topsoil. We can turn that around, but right now, with how we're processing food and what's happening,
wow.
Yes, and that's a fact. So this is something we teach. So understand, as a business model, where are you going to be getting your food from? How do you want to grow? And who is it that, and why? Why are you doing this? And if you have to be able to, you really have to be able to answer that, I believe, in the food world. Same with coffee. Like, why are you doing this? Is it to bring joy, or is it just for money? Is this just a business model for you? There's a couple different ways to look at it.
Yeah, those are such big topics, and I wish we had more time to continue to chat.
So huge. So I would say, know why you want to get into the food business. Just look at all your purveyors and where everything's going to be coming from. Understand that, and really understand your business budget model, because all of that marries together and is multi-layered, and it will be the outcome for your success.
Yeah. And while you're speaking, I'm just hearing in my head, like, values, like who you are, like personally, and who you are professionally. And according to Brené Brown, it's the same. So you really need to know what your values are so that you can act in a way that is in alignment with your values.
Absolutely. And that you'll hit your head on a brick wall if you don't do that, if you don't understand why you're getting into it and who you're working with, because you guys, there just has to be purpose.
Yeah.
If there's not purpose, then your business kind of fetters out.
Definitely. Well, I want to thank you so much for being here today and for sharing this knowledge with us. And for all of you at home, if you haven't subscribed yet to Mind and Body Pilates, a wellness approach, please do so by clicking on the logo below. And I'm going to include Eat's information below as well and more about Chef Leah. So thank you so much.
Thank you.